Hello again. The Royal Shakespeare Company are staging a new production of one of Shakespeare's lesser-known plays, Pericles, at the Swan Theatre in Stratford-upon-Avon. The cast are entirely black, as may be seen in the thumbnail to this video. I rather doubt that this will surprise anybody. It fits in very neatly with the spirit of the age in the Western world. The avowedly anti-racist and progressive situation which has emerged since the Black Lives Matter disturbances 4 years ago and now seems to permeate every aspect of our lives. The curious point about this is that anti-racism only ever means showing black people and making sure that they appear as often and as widely as possible on television, in films and plays, as government officials, and in every other context. Why black people? Well, because they're part of the global majority, of course. You see, black people may be an ethnic minority in this country, or the United States, of course, but that's not the case when looked at from a global perspective. Then it is they who are the majority and we white people who are the minority. This, at least, is how the matter is presented. Viewers may possibly have heard the expression a global majority. The problem is that this is, of course, a barefaced lie. But so nervous are people of being branded racist that nobody wishes to point it out. Before I go further, I wonder if viewers ask themselves why, although they are not in the least bit surprised to hear about a play by Shakespeare with an all-black cast, they would be taken aback to see the same stunt being pulled with Chinese people, Indians, or Jews. That would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? You honestly can't imagine the Royal Shakespeare Company putting on a production in which all the cast were Sikhs or Orthodox Jews or Indians. You just know that it has to be black people who make up just 3% of the population in a scheme like this. Let's think a little about the global majority gag, which is often used to justify this kind of thing. I asked a few people recently, people I know, friends, business connections, and so on, what percentage of the world's population they supposed was black. And in every case, the guess was that it was at least 50%. That is to say that the majority of the world was black. Let's just run through the figures. There are roughly 1.2 billion people in Africa. Not all of them are black, of course. Egypt alone contains 109 million Arabs. In total, there are perhaps 220 million Arabs, Berbers, and white people living in Africa, which means that there are something in the region of 980 million black people on the continent. Another 43 million black people live in the Caribbean, perhaps 15 million in Brazil, and of course some 40 million African Americans. Then there are 500,000 or so Aboriginal people in Australia. All told, there are probably about 1.1 billion black people on Earth. Of course, the total human population is now approaching 8 billion, which means that black people only make up 1/7 of the people in the world. Put another way, 6/7 of the global population is not black. There can be no doubt at all in the fact that black people are a minority, whether looked at in terms of the population of Britain or the United States, and even from a global perspective. The population of India is almost 1.5 billion. There are far more Indians in the world than black people. There are almost 1.5 billion Chinese people too, so more of them in the world than black people. I remark, though, you will not see loads of Indians or Chinese people in any play, film, television program, or advertisement produced in this country. I am asking people to consider why this is, and not simply to close their eyes and ears. A game is being played with us which has nothing to do at all with anti-racism, quite the reverse. If the name of the game really was anti-racism, then the focus would not simply be upon that single ethnicity. What we are witnessing is more complicated than it at first sight appears, and all I ask is that people think about it. I've been accused of being obsessed with black people. Fair enough. The fact that every time I open my newspaper, I see an example of this, as I did today with the productions of the Royal Shakespeare Company, is the reason for what people can describe as an obsession. It is something weird happening. It is something peculiar. It's obviously not an innocent thing like, oh, we'll be anti-racist, so instead of white people, we'll have ethnic minorities in different places. It's that single ethnicity, a minority both in Britain and in the world as a whole. Why do you suppose the focus is on people of African heritage and nobody else?